Legion Azrael here, like always, and I am so stoked for some Game of Thrones. Or maybe it's just the chocolate chip cookie I ate. I don't know. Looking a little chunky. Whatever. Let's just get into it, check it out, see what it's all about. Let's hope it's good. Like a little bit behind the scenes, but then a trailer. Give it to me. I'm ready.
I was always quite into having my own style, I guess. I didn't actually particularly like sewing, but I liked what you could do with it. I always had something quite different and new, and I sort of liked that. It just became very much what I did, and so I went into fashion.
If you're a woman that can sew and you're a young girl, oh my god, if you're talented, you could be like the hit of your school. I'm not a girl, nor am I talented.
When I was 15, I used to go and buy fabric in the
Baby
daytime
rage.
with my pocket money, and then make something in the afternoon, and then wear it out in the evening. I was always very observant about how people looked, what they wore, how they expressed themselves. Hence, became a new romantic. There was Steve Strange and Boy George and Spandau Ballet. We were the Blitz kids. Became a...
What in the fuck am I looking at right here? So fucking bizarre, dude. Oh my god. Alright.
romantic. There was Steve Strange and Boy George and Spandau Ballet.
Yeah, I can do something weird on the channel right now. This is the weirdest thing I'll do on this
People
channel.
always want to do something quite creative with their lives. It was a great time to be a fashion student.
Water.
I just slowly became aware through costume houses there was the whole side of design that I didn't really know about.
You don't know shit about your balls, Jon Snow.
I did realize I love the narrative. I like the fact that you use costumes to tell a story and to create character. And the more I did it, the more I realized that's something that I really, really enjoyed. You know the story, you know what they're doing, you know what their relationships are, you need to show that.
Oh no, it's Ramsay. Ramsay's playing some kind of new character in some other big movie.
In a period piece. You can look at reference, what did they wear in Holland in Blood? You have the evidence, and then you can play within that. Game of Thrones is much harder in a way, because you have to make it up. I just look all the time, even if I'm not working on something, I'll make
Good at sewing, not good at drawing.
When I see an image, I'll just stick it in like a Cersei file or whatever, and I'll just keep putting things in. It just might be a texture. So when it comes around to starting a game, I'll have a little sort of file of ideas which just might influence the way it goes. And it often happens, I go, God, I forgot about that. That would be quite an interesting way. But also what you've done before sort of informs you where you need to go.
That looked like I almost fell. What? I swear to God, this clip said behind the scene, or maybe not.
Designing a series like this, first it has to come from the script, that guides you. Then you start building up a picture of how this person lives and what influences them. As if they're on the coast, they can trade and they can buy and they can become much more flamboyant. There's competition because there's more than one armorer or more than one dressmaker.
Sounds like everybody that plays D&D.
What do people do in the evenings? Well, they probably embroider.
Backstory.
Balance that with the other characters around them and consider the set, colors, and it just evolves. I enjoyed doing the four women very much. Arya and Dany and Sansa.
Phrasing?
Cersei, because they've just really become very strong. I like the initial designing and planning and coming up with the sort of ideas for characters, working as a team to make that happen.
Was that one of the Wildlings things? I'm gonna get touching my face a lot because I'm just listening.
Or a TV series or something, that's it, that's your body of work. You feel like you've really contributed something.
It'd be a pretty cool job. Well, that's a whole lot of just food for thought, I guess. Yeah. Game of Thrones, I don't know how long it's going to go. I think the books have way overlapped. I think, unless they've trimmed a lot of the fat off the books for the show, and they're kind of caught up to it. I believe that's what they said. Actually, sorry for the sniffles. If I remember correctly, they said like last year or the year before that they're like doing it, but they gotta wait for Martin to actually write the rest of it. So they're kind of up on the cusp of what it is. Now that's scary in its own right. Martin doesn't seem like a guy that gets pressured. He looks like a guy that gives no F's. So I hope that he is not like feeling like the pressure, not from anybody, but feeling pressure on creating something quickly so that it can be adapted to a TV show. I hope he's just like, F it, the people will wait. And that way there's nothing worse. Like, in the scenarios that we have, we could either easily get a show rushed and everybody hates it, or if the possibility of him taking his time and it not being the greatest, that's the better outcome. I'd rather him take his time and try to make something good than be disappointed with somebody doing a rush job. Because it's almost 100% every time when you try to rush something to make money or to make somebody else happy that's benefiting financially, it never goes well. No show has ever lasted. And that's not even a tried and true theory, because look at another show like Firefly. It didn't really have the ratings at the point in time, but it had the following. And, you know, I don't know if it could have stayed afloat, but it didn't. And it was one of those very rare things where a show was so big, it had so much outcry to have it come back, and it didn't. It was wrapped up in a movie. So, like, that's one concern I have for Game of Thrones. Is he gonna be able to write fast enough and true to what he, I don't want him to come back in like 10, 15, 20 years if he lives that long. That's not like something mean. He's a kind of an older guy and he's extremely overweight. I don't see his lifespan being super long, which is, I think people have like, oh, let's hope we can get some of those books before he goes. It's like, wow, really? Your concern is his book, his writing before he goes? I mean, you're like one of those weirdos that's like, his writing is like gospel to you, I guess. But if you're like, oh, I just need a book to read and I hope he finishes before he croaks, that's kind of a shitty person. But I think he'll be alive well long enough to write this stuff, unless he takes like a George Lucas sized break. But I don't want him to come back, and I bet he will in like 10 years, 20 years, or whatever, after the show is done or after the books have been concluded. And I go, man, I really rushed it. I was not happy with what I put out. Lucas says he loves what he put out, even if everybody else hates it. If you take that to truth, if you take that to heart, then he put out some what most people think garbage movies in the prequels, and he was like, he said what he said now, or when he was interviewed about it. He said what he said about it when he was talking about how to say this. He mirrored or re-said that he. How do you say this? It's like retarded. I can't like actually physically say this. He had a thought when he made Star Wars, and he said it out loud when he made the trilogy, and they interviewed about it. I made the movies that I wanted to make, whether they were good or bad. That's what he said about the prequel. So I don't think Martin would come back and say, I put out the books that I wanted. I hope he does, even if they were bad. I don't want him to come back and be like, the show was in this huge rush. I was pressured. I had some first thoughts, and I went with the first thoughts instead of mulling them over and refining them more. I don't want to hear that, because that's just going to be disappointing. Now, my other concern about Game of Thrones, which is I think going to be the downfall of the show, honestly, unless it's like super revitalized, is that they have taken more people out than they've put in. So now we're getting to that part where it's really depressing, where it's like everyone around you's died, right? You have like aunts, your uncles, your parents, you're now a 50-year-old person, and the family that you grew up with is now passed on, and now you have your kids. I'm talking about real life, and you have your kids, your wife, and possibly their kids. And that's the next generation of people's families. When when I'm older, and it's going to be me and the family that I've created, and not so much what I was raised with. That's kind of sad when you look around. When you're in the in between, when you don't have family on either side, that's kind of like a sad thing. And I see Game of Thrones the same way, to where the show is, fantasy speaking, everybody's like dying. There is, of course, the brother and sister. But, Jon Snow, one of their brothers was killed. The father was killed. Everybody's been separated. The Hound's dead. And it's not even like they've killed off like a whole bunch of main characters. They've definitely cut off some. And a lot of secondary and tertiary characters. 100%. They've gotten rid of a lot of them. There is still a good chunk of the main cast. But when you take the cast like this, you trim the fat down to maybe bare bones the immediate cast and the ones that are the favorites. You don't really replenish those ranks with like the next generation or the next kids or a brother or something like that. It's still the garbage people. It's still kind of down here. Then you put it in like this doomsday scenario where you got the White Walkers. The Lannisters are about to be completely wiped out. There's going to be a reform in Westeros and the rest of the world, maybe. When fucking Khaleesi, what's her dumbass, she comes in and takes over, and then that's going to be more people dead, and it's going to be lower people, like lower main cast. There's not going to be probably a lot of newer people, and even if they do bring in new people, it's going to be people we haven't gotten to journey with over the last 6 whatever seasons. It's going to be brand new people, and when you put like all this trimming of the fat, I call, or what people call it, trimming of the fat of all like what's going on, and you put it in like this doomsday scenario, it makes everything like claustrophobic feeling. Like everything is about what's her face, Cersei. It's like all about her right now. Her brother, the tall one, he's like not really doing a whole lot. He's kind of like, and he can't really do a whole lot. He's not the character he was built on, which was being the suave and incredible swordsman. Now in real life, he's gotten older and he has no hand, so that character is kind of useless right now. And oh god, I gotta sneeze. There's just some other things that make it. It's like, look at Walking Dead. Whether you like the story or not, they created pillar characters. Rick, kind of his son. Daryl. Glenn was one of them. Maggie's the other one. And then they brought in some other people that had a run. And as they were dying within that season, I don't remember the guy's name. He was the kind of the burly black dude. The black girl, I think that's still Sasha, was that her name? She had a brother, was the bigger kind of, not chunky guy, but just a bigger dude with the beard. They came in as a group, and one died, one stayed. And then when he died, they found the preacher, kind of another black person, because that's how they're thinking. They got to replace one with one. And everything was like loss, add. Loss, add. Loss, add. And they sprinkled it in where they kept the pillar characters, and then everything around it was so turbulent. But you got to see, and like when Rick was like losing his mind and seeing things, that was a very depressing part of that show. It was like literally, I was like, man, I don't really like watching this because it's just so gray and just so sad and depressing the way they're writing this. It's like, you might as well just kill yourself. I was like, Rick, just kill yourself. It'll be a lot easier. Just die. What's the point of living in this horrible world? And it's kind of where I stopped watching, I think. And then later on, spoilers, some pillar characters actually die, but you still have some of the main pillar characters left. And it's just like the way they wrote it, the world went to this huge dark point, and now with frick James Dean Morgan, which is not just this evil, black-eyed thing, he's a very personality-driven, funny, laughing character that's fucking crazy. And that helps balance out, because he's darkness, but he's darkness with a smile, the Joker. And so Game of Thrones has just very much been in a slow decline of just the world is getting worse and worse. Instead of like Walking Dead, where I went, oh, fuck, this is bad. Oh, we got some friends are here. Oh, we lost those friends. Oh God, it's winter. Horrible. And then it spiked back up mid next season. Game of Thrones has been very much in this huge decline that's now curving really, really far down and just constantly going down and down and down now. And it's just more and more depressing. And it's just like, God, Jesus, like, really? I don't know. I didn't realize I rambled on for 15 minutes, so I'm going to end it right there. But those are just my thoughts on how I see Game of Thrones happening and where I kind of think it's going compared to what's out there in the world as far as other TV shows, other writing, like I said, like The Walking Dead or anything else. Where compare, contrast, it's all TV. But Game of Thrones has nudity, so that's always fun. But then I like how they always rope people in with the nudity, and then they just kind of shy away from it. I'm gonna have to make this title like something involving discussion because I didn't realize I talked so long about this. This is just my thoughts, I guess. So I'll leave it right there. Thanks for watching. Thanks for hanging out. Like if you like the content, you can always like, subscribe, share. Remember, it's completely up to you. I do appreciate it. Once again, my name is Azrael. I'll see you on whatever video I'm doing next. Later, guys.